All right, let's talk Giants-Eagles NFC East matchup. The NFC Beast, as 3 out of 4 teams in the division are still here. Going to start off with this chart. Got a lot of stats that I'm going to want to get into before we get into the film, but don't worry, we will get into the film. First, starting off with this is where these teams ranked in specific Pro Football Focus categories. In today's video, we're talking about the Eagles offense, how they're going to attack the Giants defense, and you definitely see one team graded a lot better throughout the course of the regular season than the other one did. The Eagles passing attack, 6th best in terms, and again, that's just pure passing. Hurts is better if you factor in his rushing ability, which gets factored into the running category at the bottom. But still, 6 is very good. 6th best receiving core, very good, especially when you're facing the Giants, who have not graded well. There's no denying it. PFF has not been a fan of their coverage unit. Although, you know, they do things clever, right? They mix up their coverages a lot and do things like that kind of can fool opposing quarterbacks. On paper, the pass blocking for the Eagles versus the pass rush for the Giants seems like a pretty significant advantage for the Eagles, and it still might be. But I do think it's worth noting that the Giants' pass rush has gotten a lot better as the season has gone on. Also, the Eagles' offensive line has gotten banged up in some areas, but I think they should be okay heading into the playoff game. I don't think it'll matter too much. Having a week off should probably help them a lot as well. So I do think that this is going to be, you know, it's a team that I think can get pressure, but it's a team that does not give up much pressure, which should be interesting. Usually that favors the offense. Usually that's how that works. Eagles run block very well as well, and they run pretty well on top of it, and the Giants do not defend the run particularly well, so definitely looking at this, you expect a good Eagles offensive day. Looking at the box score stats from, this is when they played early on this season. This was week 15, so not that far ago, but still, you know, close enough that teams were playing their starters and everything. It was an offensive explosion for the Eagles. They ended up with 4.8 points per drive on the game. See, Jalen Hurts' passing numbers don't seem that crazy, but are still good, and the rushing total was insane. Miles Sanders, 144 yards on just 17 carries and a pair of touchdowns. Hurts and Boston Scott each had touchdowns as well, and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith had passing or had receiving touchdowns, so a ton of touchdowns to go around for the Eagles. If you go over here, these were the Pro Football Focus grades from that game by the Eagles. You see that, I mean, a lot of good numbers. The fact that the worst graded player was a 56, and that was only someone with 12 carries. The worst, you had no player who had 20 or more carries with a grade under 60 in this one. A lot of guys doing well, but at the top of the list, you have Jalen Hurts outside of Andre Dillard in his 5 snaps. Jalen Hurts was at the top of the list, so anytime he's that high on the list, the reality is you're probably going to be in trouble. Heading over to the Giants side, it's not like everyone was a mess here. Dexter Lawrence had a good day in this one, although typically you would like to see your guy at the top of the list with significant snaps to have a better grade than 71.0. I think that's reasonable to say. The Eagles had 7 guys on offense with higher grades than that, but still, he had a solid day. Julian Love tends to play very well. I think he's had a good season for them. But the reality is, I mean, you look at it, a lot of not great stuff. You know, I talked about how everyone with significant care, everyone with at least 20 snaps for the Eagles had a grade over 60. Well, you look, and I mean, only 8 guys had a grade over 60 for the Giants. 9 through 22 had a lower grade, so that's not ideal. And you look at the bottom, it's a lot of linebackers, and it's a lot of guys in coverage, which, you know, that's something you're going to have to figure out. Here's one more stat I wanted to talk about before we get into it. This is Jalen Hurts' numbers when he's blitzed versus when he's not blitzed. You see a pretty significant jump. He is better when he is not blitzed, which is interesting because in years past, it's been the other way around. Again, a lot of times this is not a quarterback stat, but a team stat. You look at his, you know, he's 11th best in PFF grade when he's blitzed, but 4th best when he's not blitzed. The passer rating, though, is the more interesting jump, as it's, because again, that's what matters, is the results at the end of the day. It's over a 10-point jump. He's only 22nd best in football in terms of passer rating when he's blitzed, but he's 2nd best when he's not blitzed. The Giants love to blitz, so you think that on paper, this could be a potential good scenario for them. Although the flip side is that, you know, this is now the wide receiver chart and how well they do versus man and then versus zone. You see that we'll start with A.J. Brown. When he's against man, 4th best PFF grade in football, and an amazing 3.39 yards per route ran. That's a super high number. Still good against zone. 23rd best according to PFF with a 1.95 yards per route ran. But that's definitely, he crushes man coverage. Jalen Hurts has a better yards per route ran when he's in man with 2.56, but he's the 49th rated PFF player in those scenarios, whereas he's 17th best against zone with a 1.8 yards per route ran. Finally, Quez Watkins, I threw on the list as well. He is kind of the third option, but doesn't really have a big difference one way or the other versus man or versus zone. I think one of the things is if you're going to blitz the Eagles, you have to have a way to cover A.J. Brown. Devonta Smith will still, he's still someone you have to worry about. But really, if you're playing a blitz and having A.J. Brown one-on-one, you have to have an answer or he will destroy you. Like, this play is an exact example of that, of just what happens if you leave him one-on-one, where it's going to be a one-on-one matchup, single safety deep, man coverage. This isn't a blitz here, but it is man coverage. Watch as when Hurts takes the snap. I mean, you're going to see A.J. Brown just gets wide open right here. The reality is, he's just one of those guys that's, he's that, there's the true number one receivers, and then there's the elite number one receivers. I feel like a true number one receiver is someone you trust to win in this situation. An elite number one receiver is a guy who you just know is going to win in this situation, right? The Jamar Chases, the Justin Jeffersons, the Cooper Kupps, the A.J. Browns. Watch as Hurts easily makes this throw. He's not going to miss that, and A.J. Brown gets into the end zone for a touchdown. I think if you're going to play man coverage, you got to double A.J. Brown. You just do, and you got to trust that you can find a way to stop Devonta Smith in that scenario. Trust you have a corner who can do it, which I'm not sure if they do, because this play was a very iconic play of this week. This is one of the highlights of the week. It's A.J. Brown, A.J. Brown's on that side of the field, but it's not his route. It's Devonta Smith that's going to be the guy who they're going to look towards. There's a single safety deep here. Watch as one Hurts takes the snap. You see that Smith is winning this one-on-one matchup, but there's a safety who can come over and maybe make the play. However, Hurts puts this one perfectly on the money. The safety isn't quite able to get there. Maybe he could have taken a better angle as well, which is fair to say. That was on a 4th down as well, which made it even more impactful as they were able to get a touchdown. Those were the 2 passing touchdowns, and it's definitely something that you have to be concerned about, because if you just play zone, they will pick you apart. They've done that all year. And let's be real, we just know the Giants aren't going to do that. They're going to blitz. They're going to send pressure. They're going to give one-on-ones for Brown and Smith. I think you can double Brown. I think you have to double Brown, but then you have to worry about Smith as well. And I think that this could be a big Devonta Smith game. But let's go over here. Let's talk about some pressure, because we did see Thibodeau get to Hurts in this one, going up against Jordan Mailata, who is, again, an amazing tackle for the Eagles. I mean, he's great. But watch out, it looked like he was a little bit slow in getting off, and Thibodeau completely took advantage with an inside move. And if the Giants are going to win this game, you have to wonder if, Lawrence and Thibodeau are going to be at the, forefront of that. They might have to make a key play, maybe even a strip sack here, get a splash play. Feels like you might need to win the turnover battle to win this. A lot of times, turnover battles can be won due to an edge rusher making a play. As of right here, he gets held and still eventually gets 2 Hurts for a sack. So doing that stuff, that's what you want to see from Thibodeau. Can he do it consistently against this Eagles offensive line? It's going to be tough. But can he do it a little? And could he do it potentially in a big spot? That I could see. And that feels like that's maybe, I've been talking very pro Eagles. I think they deserve it given this situation. But that's maybe the one thing you hold out hope for on the Giants defense. And finally, I wanted to bring up this, just, it's a small thing, but one thing that the Eagles also have is I think they'll be able to run the ball very effectively, not just with halfback runs, but also you could do something like this, a quarterback design run, where you see how the blocking concept can work. They're leaving Thibodeau unblocked, but as long as Hurts can get past him, they'll be all right. And as you see, that's exactly what happened. As I said, Giants' run blocking grade has not been overly strong, so I think that the Eagles should be able to run the ball effectively as well, which could also be key. If they do get up a couple scores, which feels possible, then they can run out the clock. They're not a team that's going to, give the Giants a ton of possessions in the second half if they're leading in the second half. So that's another just thing that's going for Philadelphia. So yeah, predictions time. You probably know which way I'm leaning in terms of how I expect this Eagles offense to attack this Giants defense. And again, it's not really entirely negative against the Giants. A lot of it is just, I think this Eagles team is really good and kind of getting slept on. But the New York Giants defensive points per drive on the season is they give up a solid 2.10. It's not great, it's not terrible either, but the Eagles offense has been one of the best in football with 2.59 points per drive on the season. And in week 15, they had one of their best days, as I mentioned earlier. 48 points in 10 drives. It was a 4.8 points per drive performance. That is absolutely dominant. I don't think they'll be quite as dominant this time. I think that was kind of an anomaly. But my prediction is still a 2.9 points per drive performance. If it's a 10-drive game, that would be 29 points. So that's what I'm predicting for the Eagles. Again, there's things the Giants can do. Double A.J. Brown and play some man coverage and blitz the Eagles as much as you can. That feels like a good strategy, but I think Devonta Smith will then just have a big day, have 100 yards and maybe a couple touchdowns in this one, and I think they'll run the ball effectively as well. So when you do those two things effectively, it's going to be hard to find a way to stop them too much, but could maybe they outscore them? Maybe that's the way you have success if you're the Giants. Do I think that they could put up 30 points and win this game? Well, you have to watch my second part of this two-part video series where I covered the other side, covered the Giants offense, how they'll attack the Eagles defense. A lot of interesting stuff there as well. That should be out relatively soon. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel, all that good stuff. But yeah, let me know what you think of what I said in this video in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.